Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to talk about the document setup and preferences here. And when you're creating a new file in Affinity Designer, there are one of two ways that you can do it. You can use the Command N key to create a new file, or you can go up to here, like any other application, hit File New. Now, once inside the new document area, you're presented with a couple of options. You need to decide what you're actually creating. What is the final output? Whether you're making a print file, a print ready, a print press ready file, a photo, a web, or device. And the difference between print and print press ready is that when you send a file to a printer, a professional printer, they're usually printing in a 4-color format, which is called CMYK. Most home printers print at an RGB color space, so a color format. So we're going to go with the home printer. And when you select these options, you'll see that it'll automatically populate the other areas that are available to you. So keep that in mind, okay? We're going to go back to print here. We're going to select letter here. We're going to leave it at inches, but just so that you know, a letter is actually 8.5 by 11. But if I switch this to pixels, it actually gives me the pixel equivalent. So I think that's pretty cool. Moving along, you make your color format choices here. It automatically did it for me when I selected print. Like I said, it usually prints in an RGB format for home printers. And if I had selected print ready press, it would have selected CMYK, as you see here. Okay. I'm going to switch this back to inches. Okay, so we're all set there. And I need to turn this back to letter. Okay. So, moving ahead, it's selected in a portrait format. If I check this off, it'll change the orientation of my document to a landscape format. We're going to leave it at portrait. Retina, we don't have to worry about. Retina is specific if we were creating a file that was specific to a mobile device, or if it was only going to be viewed on screen. Okay, so, and finally, we're down here in the margins. We could set our margins for the document, and if we don't set our margins here in the document, we could always come back and do that later. We're going to leave margins on. If we press this little button here, and we have a printer set up, that's connected to our computer already, then it will automatically retrieve the margins for that particular printer. Okay, so that's pretty much it there. And here we are. We're now inside of a new document. Now, let's take a look at the preferences. Preferences are pretty self-explanatory. These are the general settings here. These are the color profile settings. I would leave those alone. I never mess with them. Taking a look here at the other options here, you can reset everything to the default, where however when you downloaded and installed Affinity Designer, you could actually click any of these buttons and reset all those things. I would leave those alone if you've already created some custom brushes. You probably want to just leave those alone and not mess with that. Performance, if you need more RAM or disk space, this is where you would make those changes here. You could also change the interval of time for Affinity Designer to do its auto-saving. The user interface, you could change the background color of the interface itself. I like it dark. I'm going to leave it here. You can also change the gamma color, not much of the actual UI, but a little bit. Okay, so that's mostly, I guess most people who have issues with, or impairments, I should say, with darks against lights and lights against darks would probably change those things. But for me, I'm going to leave it dark. And then everything else here is pretty self-explanatory. You can mess around with them, but I think everything is perfectly fine at the default. But just know that they're there if you need to make any changes. And also, if you make any changes here, for those to take place, it says require restart. So you'll have to close everything down and restart it if you wanted, some of these options like a smaller UI tools or larger UI tools. And that is pretty much it in a nutshell. That's the document setup and preferences. So if you need to dive a little bit deeper, that's where you would do it to customize your document setup. And if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments or tweet me or send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer them.